It's Mac. Welcome back. Happy New Year to everyone. And AJ and I are thrilled to be back.
I thought we were back the first week of January.
We
we
took
took some time.
we took we took some time. We rested, we recouped, and I just wanted to say that episode 31, which is today's episode, is presented by Ice Gear, online clothing store. And if you're looking for, ice apparel or Western Hockey League apparel, check them out. They have social media accounts, shop_ice gear on all platforms, or you can find them through the Winnipeg Ice website. But yeah, we took some time. We rested, we recovered, and now we're back. And so is the NHL.
Absolutely. And it's been so much fun already.
It really has.
What do you think of the Canadian? What do you think of the Canadian League or the Canadian division?
I I didn't think I would like it because I never really watched when the Canadian teams played Canadian teams because it seems like we have so much access to that. You know what I mean? But now that it's coming down to it, it's fun and the Jets are off to a hot start.
Yeah, surprisingly, that stat where they had won two games and they hadn't had the lead yet. That
Yeah,
was, you know, they sure looked good in that third game against Ottawa.
absolutely. And they had quite the eventful weekend with a blockbuster trade. Patrick Laine gone to Columbus for Pierre-Luc Dubois. And I like it. I personally like it. I think Pierre-Luc Dubois, I mean, big centerman. And at the end of the day, to go deep and to go where they want to go, you need to have real strength up the middle of the ice. And I think that's what they
Mm-hmm.
did.
You don't think, and my only criticism is one, I own a Line jersey. What am I supposed to do about that? Where I'm not getting my money back for that? I feel like the wing is a little weak, but you're right. If you're going to build up one position more than another, it's got to be the center. I'm going to be sad to see Paul Stastny move down the line.
Well, and you know what's funny? I was thinking as soon as I saw it, what came to mind was I think we talked about this on an earlier episode of how every jersey you buy ends up the player isn't on the team anymore. It's the kiss of
They're all
death.
gone. So what you can do is you can tweet at the show if there's anybody you dislike on a Winnipeg Jet, on any team really. You send them over. I'll get the jersey. They'll be gone. They'll be gone in a year or two.
And that's at Icebreaker Show with 2W. So yeah, for sure. That would be funny. And
Yeah.
it's tried and proven. Like if you have
Oh,
their jersey, it's over. And just before we move on here into the NFL a little bit, I just wanted to mention that Bell Let's Talk Day is on this Thursday, January 28th. And that's, it's a great day and it's a great initiative that Bell does every year. For every time Bell Let's Talk is hashtagged on any social platform or you call on a Bell device, there's so many ways to support. Bell will donate 5 cents to Canadian mental health initiatives, and they raise a ton of money year after year. And it's super easy for everyone to get involved. So that's just hashtagging Bell Let's Talk, and we hope that you participate.
absolutely.
Um, as we record this, we sit here on the morning of Sunday, and NFL has yet to be played. There's two
Yeah,
big
and
games today. What do you
I was going
think?
to say we usually record at night. You could actually tell that none of these games have been played yet.
Yeah,
Daylight in this episode.
absolutely. What are you thinking?
What am I thinking on the two championship games?
Yeah.
I don't think we could get a more exciting matchup at quarterback than Brady versus Rodgers.
Yeah.
And I can't believe they're going to let Patty Mahomes play in this AFC championship game.
Well, we're going to get to that in a second. And before we move on, I just want to say that my Manitoba Building Trades hot take this week, and it
Oh,
could be a little hot, is that Tom Brady is going to play in his 10th Super Bowl. And I know earlier in the podcast I mentioned I don't think they're going to win more than 8 games, but I'm wrong, and I think that Tom's going to play in his 10th Super Bowl. The Manitoba Building Trades hot take. It's not just any project. It's the opportunity of a lifetime. It's about building something great for Manitoba. That's why you turn to the talent and craftsmanship of Manitoba's expert tradespeople. Manitoba Building Trades is Manitoba's unionized construction industry. Productive labor is our business. With over 10,000 skilled trades professionals, we build what others can only imagine. Visit mbtrades.ca and come build with us. They were saying that Patty
mhm.
Mahomes might have just been choked out and winded and not a concussion. That's the
Yeah,
rumors.
maybe.
That's the rumors
Maybe,
going out there.
maybe, there's one time I got winded and my legs turned to spaghetti and I just fell to the ground like that, they're saying he has turf toe. That's the one that I just read.
Yeah.
It was my turf toe.
Every bit of me wanted to make the hot take real hot and say the Bills, but I just couldn't do it. As it was coming to my mouth, I couldn't do it.
I was actually going to wager that my cold take, because it is pretty cold in Buffalo, is that the Bills are going to the Super Bowl, man.
Wow.
I don't know. I think it's not just the extreme talent across the line. Everybody loves KC, not just because Patty Mahomes is an elite quarterback, but because the team is stacked at every position.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're so stacked at running back going into this game.
But they don't run the ball.
I really, who throws the ball a lot is Jake Allen, though.
That's true. They don't run the ball either.
Of course, we're talking about this on Monday. We're going to know the winner of this game at this point. So you're gonna be able to pick a side at this point and be like, yeah, he was right about Jake Allen.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we jump again, I just want to say there is a virtual food drive going on right now. The Winnipeg Ice, along with Domino's Pizza, in support of Siloam Mission, and for every $5 donated, essentially equals a meal for someone who's in need within our community. So if you want to check that out, you can find the links on the Winnipeg Ice website, social pages, and we'll put it on our Icebreaker social pages as well. Super easy to do, great cause. And if you're looking for food also during the week, Domino's has teamed up with the Winnipeg Ice, as I mentioned. And if you use promo code Siloam1 or Siloam2, $5 from each of those two deals will be donated directly to the food drive as well. And there's a couple options there for you to choose from. Conor McGregor. That's all I'm going to say.
I really thought he was going to go deeper than 2 rounds.
Holy
I don't know if I had Conor McGregor winning that fight. But he was lights out almost that first punch that he took. He got punched a lot.
I will say this about Conor McGregor. He's a showman. He hypes up his own fights, makes a ton of money doing that. But every time he loses, he's so gracious in defeat. He really is.
He really was. And I liked, especially from the first time they fought, he was really aggressive. I liked how it was almost a friendly fight. It was like a Rocky fight between him and Apollo, One thing I do want to say, a little shout out to my second home of Thunder Bay, Ontario. Did you see this? Poirier and McGregor were at the pre-fight, the weigh-in.
Yeah.
They were doing their pictures, right? And he pulled out a bottle of Thunder Bay's Heartbeat hot sauce.
It was Thunder. I thought it was Louisiana.
It was the Louisiana brand of Thunder Bay's made Heartbeat hot sauce. And they got the shout out on the biggest stage of them all. I thought that was one of the coolest things. And
that is
how happy McGregor was for that.
That is. And you know what? He's going to turn it into something. He's going to promote it.
That's what he's good at.
Which is unbelievable. Anyways, yeah, I was shocked at that. It was, it's always fun to watch him fight. I'm sure the pay-per-view made a bunch of money, but I bought it. Did you buy it? You streamed it.
No, I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
Yeah.
I watched it.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, that was the question. You watch it. There you go. We got a new segment perhaps next week that we're going to leave up in the air right now, but it's something fun between you and I that we're
going to bring a little trivia to the show. So a little interactive segment that we hope to launch next week. We took all this time off to come back. This is also kind of a week off for us. We're just getting the ball rolling.
We have something new coming next week, so look out for that. There's also a newsletter that you can sign up for with all things Winnipeg Ice, Icebreaker, shop ice gear, deals on retail items, tickets when we're back playing, all those types of things. So if you want to sign up for that, you can do so by visiting icebreakershow.ca, and there'll be a pop-up prompting you to sign up for that. And you can, unsubscribe at any time if you feel like you don't want to do that. And if you sign up before January 27th, you can win an ice jersey, maybe a Peyton Krebs bobblehead, and a couple other prizes. So check that out. There's more information about that on all the social channels as well. Great guest on the show today.
Oh, the best you've gotten yet.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of talking with, a former Winnipeg Jet, Stanley Cup champion. Now he's one of the biggest names in commentary in the NHL. He works for NBC, and he worked alongside the legendary Doc Emrick for 14 years, which you'll hear all about. But Eddie Olczyk joined the show.
Mac, nice to be with you. Hope everybody's well. Hope your family's well. And, full disclosure, your dad and I go back a long ways to my days, my 2 stints with the Winnipeg Jets back in the 90s, the early 90s. And then I got traded to New York and won a cup with the Rangers, and then eventually worked my way back to Winnipeg and with the original Jets, and was there for the final game in Winnipeg. But it's great to be with you, and hope your family's well. And make sure you give your dad a virtual hug for me. I always enjoy seeing him on the road and seeing him back in the day. And we got a lot of stories, and it's always good to catch up with him. And it's good to catch up with you. So I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope your family as well. And you mentioned you did 2 stints in Winnipeg with the Jets, but I heard through the grapevine that you did an earlier stint as maybe a 14 or 15-year-old junior player with the Winnipeg Warriors camp.
Yeah, I got invited to come to their camp, and I think it was in '81, if I'm not mistaken, Mac. Now I'm obviously dating myself because I am, a little old, but I came to the camp for 48 hours, and I think it was in August of '81. I was there, and at that time I was an aspiring hockey player growing up in Chicago, and didn't know if I wanted to, play major junior or go to college or, maybe play in the Olympics in a couple of years. And that was quite the experience to come up to Winnipeg, have 48 hours there. And at that time, they had the Canada Cup going on, which is kind of like the World Cup of hockey, but, it was prior to that. And Team Canada was there practicing. And my dad and I, somehow we snuck into the old arena, and we watched Canada practice. And when we were walking in, must have been maybe an hour and a half before practice, we happened to walk in behind Barry Beck, who was a longtime NHL player, and was like a mountain of a man. He was like 6'4" and 235 pounds. And I was thinking geez, I better grow a little bit here if I want to play in the NHL. And even though I was only 14 years old, but yeah, I was introduced to the city of Winnipeg and the great people there in Winnipeg when I was 14, 15 years old, and only spent 48 hours there. But something that that helped prepare me for almost 7 years of my professional and personal life of being in Winnipeg, not once, but twice in the 90s.
And as you mentioned, you and my dad go a long way back just with the connection from the Winnipeg Jets. And he said that you're the only player ever that he had to send hockey sticks back because they weren't heavy enough.
Well, I mean, look at, your dad better than anybody. And, he happens to maybe, his fibs are maybe a little bit long every once in a while. And maybe there's a little under the truth than the real facts. But yeah, there was a batch of sticks, and I have one right over there, an old Titan. And I think your dad has a couple of those stashed away for some cold nights in the peg, or maybe he's just looking to work on his biceps or his triceps there. But there were a couple of times where we got a batch of sticks that were way too light. I liked a heavy stick. I liked a heavy twig. And I called your dad Dinger, and I said, "Hey, Dinger, oh, what are they doing here? Are we going short on the wood here?" It's like, I could tell, Mac, this, when you're a hockey player and you have the most important part of your equipment, at least for me, my stick was the most important part of my gear, is it didn't feel right. I'm like, what? First off, why are we paying for these? And B, I need wood is good, right? Like, wood sticks are good. Wood is good. And when they weren't heavy enough, I would tell your dad, and your dad would kind of roll his eyes at me, and then he would, you know what? Yeah, these are kind of different than these other ones. So it would send the batch of sticks back. I don't know how your dad got it through through payroll there of making sure that we had to send them back twice, but they weren't the right stick for me. And sure enough, your dad would always take care of me. And I've said this, Mac, my whole life, and I learned this as a young hockey player. And for any young hockey players out there, please believe me when I say this. The lifeline for you as a player, if you're lucky enough to have trainers, whether medical or equipment, those guys are the lifeline of a hockey player. And whether it's a relationship with your dad, Mac, or other trainers and guys that I've been with my whole NHL life, even as a broadcaster to this day, that relationship is very strong and it means a lot. And I really believe is that if you take care of those guys and girls, they're going to take care of you the rest of your life, regardless of what you're doing. And I can speak to that with your dad and other people that I know over my NHL career and Olympic career and broadcasting career is you take care of the trainers, they're going to take care of you. So yes, that is a factual story. I don't think that your dad got him as quick as I would have liked, because I think he kind of put it kind of on the back burner and was taking care of Kitty or Dermy, or he finally eventually got around to Eddie Olczyk sticks when he needed, but he did come up large, and like to say that I put a few pucks in the back of the net with those with that new shipment of sticks.
And I bet you did, and I bet you Winnipeg fans can attest to that. And there's an iconic video here in Winnipeg of you at a press conference in '96. Yeah. What do you remember about that? And we're going to bring it back to Winnipeg.
Wherever this team ends up, and when this team wins the Stanley Cup, it's coming back to Winnipeg.
Yeah, I mean, look, we were saying goodbye to the city of Winnipeg, Mac, and I'm sure you remember. We were saying goodbye to the province of Manitoba, and always knowing that Winnipeg was an NHL city, even though the team was going to be leaving. And I think it was just pretty much from the heart. I mean, it was a goodbye. It was trying to thank the city of Winnipeg for all their support and all the Jets, the Jets personnel, not only on the ice, but off the ice, a lot of people there. And it was really a hard time. And I just wanted to let people know there. And look, I never made my way with the team to Arizona. I never made it there. And I have heard through the grapevine, Mac, that after my speech, it did not go over very well with the management and the ownership of the new franchise in Phoenix. And I'm okay with that. I was just speaking from my passion and love for the city of Winnipeg and being a Winnipeg Jet. It was just like, hey, always know that, hey, if this team does win the Stanley Cup, it's coming back to Winnipeg. And, I got a little emotional. I know it's gotten a lot of play. Since the Jets have come back.
Yeah.
But it was an emotional time. And I think I was just wearing my heart on my sleeve, and not easy to get up in front of a full house at the arena and knowing how many thousands of people that were watching that rally as we were getting ready to leave Winnipeg. But I still get reminded of that every once in a while. A lot of my old teammates have answering machines on their cell phones or their house phones that when you call their house, you hear me with my saying goodbye to Winnipeg and the Stanley Cup's coming back to Winnipeg. But it was something that I'm proud of. It was very emotional, and yeah, I did have the poster here somewhere. I don't know, maybe my kids took it. Hold on a second. Let me see if it's over here. Actually, here it is, Matt.
There you go.
There it is.
There you go. That's awesome.
It's coming back to Winnipeg. So, I don't know. It's just something that, look, as you know, I mean, there are certain things in life that are always forever. And there isn't a time that I don't come back to Winnipeg where somebody doesn't, I cross paths with, and people acknowledge that, my time as a Winnipeg Jet, and then also the rally and the passion that I spoke with. So it's still pretty cool. And my youngest son, Nick, is a big Blackhawks and Jets fan. And he every once in a while, he reminds me of that day in Jets history.
Yeah, absolutely. And then moving on a little bit, after your playing career, you went to TV for a couple years, and then you coached for a couple years, but then ultimately decided on going back to broadcasting. And what went into that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the opportunity that I got in Pittsburgh. I'd always thought about getting into management or getting into coaching after I retired, Mac. And I worked in Pittsburgh for 3 years with a great legendary Mike Lang, who has been in Pittsburgh for 47, 48 years, and got a chance to really learn the business from him and learning about broadcasting and what have you. And then I got the opportunity. I thought, you know what, this is the time. Coaching was in the blood, and I really enjoyed the teaching part of it. And my interview when I went in with the Pittsburgh Penguins in, I think it was the summer of '03, they had no coaches in the organization. They had nobody in Pittsburgh. They had nobody in the American Hockey League in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and they had nobody in the East Coast Hockey League in Wheeling, West Virginia. And I went in and met with Craig Patrick, the general manager at the time, and I had known Craig for a long, long time. And I just said, hey, look, I'd love the opportunity to sit down and talk. And I had known Craig for, a long time. I think maybe 17, 18 years at that particular time. And I said, I'd be interested in coaching. So I actually put my hat in the ring to become the head coach of the American League team in Scranton, in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. I wanted to go to the minors and coach there. And my first interview was about 3 or 4 hours, and I got another call, and 3 or 4 hours in, it was like, what would be your thoughts about coaching in the NHL, and, it happened. I wouldn't trade it in for anything, because I think I became a better hockey guy, became a better broadcaster. I learned a lot about the game. I was there only 2 years, but it was a great experience. I'm very thankful to Mario Lemieux and the Penguin organization and Craig Patrick for giving me that chance. And I was there when we drafted Marc-Andre Fleury, Evgeny Malkin, and Sidney Crosby. Now, unfortunately for me, I wasn't able to see it through a couple of years later, where they eventually won the Stanley Cup. But it was great to be a part of. And then, like you said, I become a full-time TV guy since 2006, and love what I do. Love being a part of the game, and it's been. I'm very much at peace at what's going on. And I had a little bit of a health scare a couple of years ago with my stage 3 colon cancer battle, and proud to say that I'm clean and clear here the last couple of years. And, but yeah, broadcasting and the coaching aspect of it kind of went side by side for a while, and just really, really fortunate to be in the greatest game in the world. And that coaching experience, like I said, really helped me become, I think, a better broadcaster. And I miss it. I miss the teaching part. It's always going to be a part of my blood. But I love what I'm doing. I'm very much at peace at what I'm doing, and my family's happy. So if your family's happy, I'm happy. So that's all that really matters.
Yeah, and then you got to work alongside Doc Emrick for a long time, which was a great give and take between you two. But you also got to throw your hat into something I know you're passionate about, and that's the horse racing, with doing your picks on the Triple Crown races and things like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, look at, you mentioned Doc Emrick. I was Doc's partner for 14 years, and, he rode off into the sunset this last summer, and a Hall of Fame career. And, I'm going to miss him every day. I miss his friendship and his trust more than anything else. And I learned a lot from him as far as being a broadcaster. And I've worked with some of the legends of the game. I mentioned Mike Lang, or working with my partner in Chicago as I do the Blackhawk games now with the great Pat Foley. With Doc Emrick, 3 Hall of Famers there. I've worked with some of the very best on radio and in television. And, horse racing's always been a part of my life. I'm sure your dad can tell you a few stories, and you can ask him about the trip when I handed him a few dollars, where he held a few dollars for me during one of the LA Kings games that we had on a long trip. I think it was day 1 or day 2 of a 10-day road trip. And I didn't want to leave the money in the locker room, Mac. I had to leave it with somebody. So the only guy I trusted was your dad. And your dad was walking around with a few bucks in his shorts as he was doing the game that night from LA. And I leaned over one time during the game and I said, "You still got the cash?" And then all he did was kind of just pat his side there, where he had a few bucks in his pocket. So I had a good day at the racetrack the day before. But horse racing's always been a part of my life, and now I get an opportunity to do on a national stage and be a part of NBC's coverage here in the States for horse racing, whether it's a Triple Crown or the Breeders' Cup or other races we do. So kind of tied in a pretty nice deal here with doing hockey and horse racing, pucks and ponies, as I like to call it,
There you go.
for NBC. And I really enjoy doing that part of it. And like I said, I think it's helped me become a better broadcaster of being able to do a little bit of both and doing what I love to do away from the game of hockey. So yeah, things have been good, and looking forward to a normal Kentucky Derby in the first Saturday in May this year, instead of the first Saturday in September like we had during this global pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that you had a battle with cancer, and you published a book called Beating the Odds, not only about your battle with cancer, but making it to the NHL and your life in general, which is a must read. But for the sake of time, I got one more question for you.
Yeah, sure.
And I was told to ask you about or to rate the hot dogs at the old Quebec Coliseum.
Well, look, let's take people back a little bit. Back in the day when the Nordiques were in Quebec City, you would go to the Coliseum, the Lake Colisée, and I learned about how great the hot dogs were in Quebec City when I was a young Pee-wee hockey player, when I went up to the Pee-wee tournament, the Lake Carnival, back when I was 12 or 13 years old. I actually played in the Pee-wee tournament twice. It's the biggest Pee-wee tournament in the world. I mean, you have teams coming from all over, at least when I was playing. I know it's changed over the years, Mac, but you go there and they have 15,000 people watching 12 and 13-year-old hockey players in the home of the Nordiques, an NHL arena, which was absolutely incredible. But being a guy who likes food back in the day, and I still do, but I enjoyed a few Chien Chaud. I enjoyed a few hot dog with a little bit of ketchup. I wasn't much of a mustard guy, and a little bit of relish. And I thought as a 12-year-old kid, I'd never had a better hot dog in my life. So fast forward, you make it to the NHL, and the Quebec Nordiques are still in the NHL. They had the same hot dogs. They had the same Chien Chaud. So we would always, before the game, go, look at whatever you do, make sure we get about 100 hot dogs ordered before the start of the third period, so that one of the trainers could go and pick up the hot dogs and bring them down the locker room. And then after the game, we'd have something to eat. It's not like it is today in the NHL, where the players get pizza and sushi, in bottled water and whatever, and the team would bring it in. No, we would have to do that ourselves. Hard to believe for today's NHL players, but we had to sit there and organize it ourselves. We'd have to $20 up, everybody give the trainer $20 and go up and get 100 hot dogs. Now, I don't think the concession people, Mac, were too thrilled with the trainers coming up and getting an order of 100 hot dogs, but that's what we did. But the legendary story is, and they were great. Look at after a game, and you throw it out. I mean, look at, I don't know what they did. They took like an iron, and they would press down the bread on the hot dogs. I mean, they were the best hot dogs ever. So the story, though, is, and there are factual, there is a narrative here that there are pictures, television and still pictures, that there have been known to be backup goaltenders that during a game to have been like inhaling hot dogs while his team was out there playing. Now, I'm not going to say that a former outstanding legendary goaltender for the Winnipeg Jets was caught having a few hot dogs on his night off. But there was a few mustard stains, as the training staff could attest, that it's pretty hard. You can get hockey tape and you can get blood and everything else off of jerseys, but mustard, not so quick. So there was a backup goaltender at the time who had the night off in Quebec that was leaning down during the game and inhaling a few hot dogs. So we caught this goaltender. We brought him to Kangaroo Court, and legendary goalie Bob, yes, had to pay for the next set of hot dogs that we had on the road. But the hot dogs in Quebec City, by far, the best hot dogs ever inhaled by an NHL player. And it happened all the time too. And they used to have this, we used to have the machine for the hot packs in the dressing room. It was called the hydroculator.
Yeah.
Where you put in hot packs in the boiling hot water, you put the pads in there, you pull them out, you dry them off, you put them in, and then you put them on your back or whatever to get warmed up. Like, we didn't have massage therapists.
Yeah.
We didn't have the stim machines at this time. You had to do it old fashioned way, right? So when you go to Quebec City, though, there were no hot packs because the hot dogs would be on the hydroculator covered in towels because you wanted to keep the hot dogs warm for the post-game meal for the players.
Priorities.
So, yeah, exactly. Prioritizing what the hell is going on in a locker room. So, yes, there was a goalie caught eating hot dogs during the game, the mustard on the jersey. He had to pay for the next set of hot dogs that we got on the road because Kangaroo Court, he was in on the hot dogs before the rest of the team, and he wasn't even playing. Now, the best part of that is he actually came in relief when we were down like 6 or 7-2, which made it even better story. But yeah, the legendary days of playing against the Quebec Nordiques, the She Ain't Show were pretty good, and probably my lifetime. I probably had over a couple of hundred hot dogs in Quebec City over my lifetime in the National Hockey League.
Well, Eddie, that's good stuff, and I appreciate you joining the show, and looking forward to hearing you on NBC here sometime soon.
Hey, Mac, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. And like, I can't emphasize this enough. Your dad was right behind me when I was in my battle. He contacted me often. He would shoot me a text. He would call me. My good buddy Double D, Darren Dunn, out there at Assiniboia Downs. It really helped. And I would encourage anybody out there that if they know somebody that's in a battle or going through a tough time to reach out to somebody, because, you kind of feel like you're alone, and it makes you feel good, even though you're scared and you're in a battle, to know that you have that support. And your dad was right there every step of the way, and I'll be forever grateful for the support that he gave me. So let him know I'm thinking about him, and I hope you and your family are well, and keep up the great work. And I look forward to getting back to Winnipeg, hopefully sooner than later, when we all get on the right side of this pandemic. So stay healthy, stay safe, and if you ever want to have me on again and talk specifics about what's going on in the National Hockey League, you got my info, and I look forward to doing that with you somewhere down the road. But make sure you say hi to your family, and I look forward to seeing you soon, Mac.
Thanks again to Eddie Olczyk for joining the show. That was a pleasure on my end to be able to chat with him for 20 or so minutes there, and I can't thank him enough. If you haven't checked out his book, make sure to pick up a copy or download somewhere. It's a must read. We're going to try something new here this week on the show. We're going to add a segment. We're going to bring in Mitch Peacock, a Winnipeg Ice analyst, to talk about the Western Hockey League and the Winnipeg Ice. And without further ado, we'll get that going. So Mitch, how you doing?
Doing well, Mac. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Just getting by here. And so you started writing some articles for the Ice last week. If you want to touch on those a little bit.
Yeah, lots of fun, to start talking about the game again. Ever since the Western Hockey League's announcement of plans to play a 24-game regular season, people who love the game and people who love this league are getting excited. Something to talk about, something to think about. And of course, when you think about the league and the pandemic, you realize hockey's place in all of this and how important it is that health and safety are number one. And nobody's forgetting that. But once you get past that and start to think about how different times are, it really got me thinking. So I had a chance to catch up with a few people who've been around the game a long time. Rob Vanstone, a sports editor with the Regina Leader-Post. Also had a chance to talk with Perry Bergson from the Brandon Sun, who's close to the game and has followed the Western League for years, as you know. And just really interesting to talk to people like that about how their life feels different this year. And I think all of us can relate to that. The usual routines are not there. The usual things that you do at certain times of the year are not happening. And that affects fans, that affects people who support the game, that affects players, coaches, equipment staff, medical staff, bus drivers, people who work in arenas. We all feel it. So it was neat to talk to those guys and just talk to them about how there's this season doesn't compare to any other. And the idea of just being able to play some games would be such a welcome relief for all of those people that I talked about. So that was, that was really powerful, I thought, to gain that perspective and to talk to those people who've been around it so long. I mean, Rob talked about his introduction to the Western Hockey League was a 7-year-old boy when his dad was the organist at the Regina Pats games, and he got to sit in a folding chair next to him at the rink and look at this game and see how good these young players are. And he's been around it now almost 50 years. So that was a neat way to get things started, middle part of last week. And Then I had a chance to catch up with a couple of ice players and just see where they're at with all of this. Talked to a young guy, Carter Prasovsky in Saskatoon, and a veteran player, Jackson Leopard in North Vancouver. And, you know, some real similarities. Both guys, again, with that perspective now that, you know, hockey's important and hockey's a big part of their lives. But there's more happening right now, and they understand it, they get it, and they're compassionate and supportive of all the people out there who are dealing with the pandemic as they are. But then again, the idea that they could get a chance to go back to doing what they love, even to some degree, with a 24-game season is so exciting for them. And you were a junior hockey player, Mac. You know all about it. I mean, when you're a young guy, you're trying to get into the league and get used to things and find your place. When you're a veteran guy, you're trying to make an impression and see if you can, you know, advance your career. In your case, going on to play in college. In their case, maybe playing in university or trying to get a chance to play pro. So really interesting just to check in with those guys.
And wasn't it interesting, I thought too, just from reading the articles, is their mindset shift from the start of it to where they are now, with maybe being way more frustrated at the start, and then to now really realizing that there's bigger things out there. And, you know, just the idea or the thought of having the opportunity to maybe and play some games here sometime soon is just something extremely exciting and for them to look forward to.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you know, all of us can relate to the frustrations and the emotional ups and downs of dealing with the pandemic and how it's affected our lives. And so these guys are no different, right? They're doing something they love, then they're not able to do it. And as so many of us can relate to, it was just pulled right out from underneath them. And everybody, I'm sure, can think of experiences in their lives, whether it's school or job or family plans or whatever, where it's just, nope, that's not happening. And these guys had to deal with that and had to get over that. And as you say, there's some frustration, there's some disappointment. It's almost like a grieving. And then, you know, you ride those ups and downs, you do the best you can, you be patient. And then, you know, an announcement comes out, you might get a chance to do this thing again. And you're almost careful about getting excited because so many things have changed and so many things have gone up and down. But there's no hiding it and talking to guys like Carter Prasovsky and Jackson Leopard. They love to play this game. They really like the team that they play for. And 24 games seems like a full season to them at this point, because anything is better than what was, you know, possible a few months ago.
Yeah, and like you said, all of a sudden there's a light at the end of the tunnel, something, you know, to look forward to. The 24 games, albeit a shortened season, but like you said, it's game action once again after, you know, in more than one way, it seems like you think back to last March and you look at where we are now, it's almost been a year. But then in the same breath, it's like, where did those 10 months go? It feels like it's just flown right by.
It does in a lot of ways. And then, you know, there's those other days you think that are never going to end when you're having a tough time. But well, you know, one of the things that's cool about that is that both players I talk to, and probably a lot of guys around the Western League can relate to this, coaches even, you know, the idea that, okay, this time is passing. Let's not let it go by without making it productive. So you've seen Carter Prasovsky and seen Jackson Leopard make big commitments to their fitness training, to making sure that they're in shape and ready to go. Carter Prasovsky told me he's been skating on the outdoor rink just to try and get out and get the legs going. So time is an interesting thing, and it's what you make of it. And these guys have had their down days for sure, but they've had more days than the down days where they've said, let's make this count and let's do something with this. So I think that's empowering too. And I think it really, you know, I mean, not to sound too much like a parent here, but I think that's a great thing for these young people to take forward in their lives. You know, is it things are going to go sideways sometimes, and what are you going to do about it? How are you going to make it work, and how are you going to be prepared to go forward? And boy, it's a tough way to learn, but I think it's going to be good for these guys. And I think both players too mentioned that while it's 24 games compared to 68, there's not going to be a real, I mean, at least as far as we understand now, a preseason to build up to it. So you better be ready to go when the puck drops. And if the season is condensed to try and make sure that it doesn't drag on too long, well, then it's going to feel a lot like a regular season anyway. If you're playing 2-3 games a week, So, you can tell the wheels are turning and they're excited and they're already thinking about kind of where their head needs to be and where their bodies need to be.
And just one last point on that. In life and in sports, you face adversity multiple times throughout, your life or your career. And I just think, whether any players haven't gone through an injury process before, but now, like, moving forward, if that happens, they can fall back on this experience and how to get themselves back ready after, quite a long layoff. But that's enough, about last week's articles. What do we got in store this week?
Putting the pressure on. I got to come up with something else now, hey? Can't rest on my laurels of 2 articles. I think one of the things that everybody can relate to, I mean, here we are talking on Zoom and meeting virtually. There's been all kinds of that going on for months on end. It's how business is being conducted in a lot of realms right now. And hockey teams are no different, especially the high-level teams like Western Hockey League teams. And the Winnipeg Ice, led by their head coach, James Patrick, have really made a commitment to making sure that the players remain in contact with one another, that the team building continues, that the players are being cared for as young people, and that they're also being prepared as hockey players. So we're going to find out a little bit more about that coming up this week. We'll hear from the head coach and check in with players and just understand better what they've been doing to make sure that they don't lose touch with each other and make sure that whenever there is a hockey game, the Winnipeg Ice are going to be ready to play.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Mitch.
Should be lots of fun. Thank you.
Well, that'll do it for this week. Hope everybody has a great week. It was a pleasure being back. If you haven't already, make sure to follow us on social media at Icebreaker Show with 2 W's and pass along to your friends if you enjoy. Hope everybody has a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.